Right, this is lesson 3, converting between percents, decimals, and fractions. Okay, so one skill we need to know how to do is to reduce fractions into lowest terms. The reason we want to do this is because it makes fractions more clear. It's easier to understand smaller numbers. If the numbers are smaller, calculations are easier. And you can also compare numbers easier if the numbers are smaller. So to produce a fraction, we want to find a number that the numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator can both be divided by. So we want to divide both the top and the bottom of the fraction by the same number. Or actually, what I should put is a common denominator, or by the greatest common factor. That means the largest number that can divide both. If you don't know what the greatest common factor is, you could just divide by any number that divides into both and then just keep going. So in this first example, 150 over 75, 150 and 175, they both end in 0 and 5. That's an indication you could divide by 5. You could also divide by 25 and do it in one step. So let's go ahead and do that. So I can divide the top and the bottom both by 120 or both by 25 and I get whole number answers. So I want to choose that. So I get 6 over 7 when I do that. Notice I could have, if I didn't know that 25 was the GCF, or the greatest common factor, I could just divide by 5. And I get 30 over 35. And then I notice again, 30 and 35, they both divide by 5 again. So I could just simply keep going. So that's another way to do it. Get the same answer, see, in the end, 6 over 7. And 6 over 7 is a lot easier to understand, 6 parts out of 7, compared to 150 over 175. Those numbers are really big. Okay, let's go for another example, 24 over 26. So both of those are even numbers. Whenever numbers are even, they can be divided by 2. So let's divide by 2 and see where we get. Remember, you always have to divide a fraction by the same number on the top and the bottom. Okay, 12 over 13. Now 13 is a prime number. It can't be divided by anything except for itself. So this means that this is fully reduced, 12 out of 13. All right, so you can try these. You can pause the video here or you can do them along with me. 82 over 200. Again, both of those are even. So 2 is a good place to start. And remember, you can always keep going. If you get to an answer that's not fully reduced, you can just keep dividing. So 41 is a prime, so that can't be reduced anymore. Okay, 36 and 81. So a good tip here. So they're both not even, so we can't divide by 2. If two-digit numbers, if their digits add to 9, you can divide by 9. So 36 divides 9 evenly, and same with 81. So let's do that and see where we get. So 36 divided by 9 is 4. 81 divided by 9 is 9. And 4 over 9, neither of those numbers can be reduced any further. So we can stop. 375 and 400, we can divide by 25 here. Just like we did in that first example, we get 15 over 16, and those numbers cannot be divided anymore. And 250 over 1,000, you can actually divide by 250. Now you don't have to do that all in one step. Again, if you divide it by 25, for example, and then you could divide by 10. Okay, now let's practice converting. Percents, decimals, and fractions, they're all the same. They're just different ways of presenting different numbers. So for example, percentages, we use those a lot in money, like discounts. We use those a lot. We see them in the news or when information is presented to us, like data, statistics. You see them a lot in sports. Decimals, they're used a lot with money or with measurements. In science, we use decimals to talk about small numbers. And then fractions, we use those a lot in measuring, like in carpentry, when you're using inches. You use them a lot in baking, right? So there's just different ways, places in real life where we use these types of numbers. And it's important to be able to convert them because they all do mean the same thing. And so, yeah, so let's do an example to kind of show how they relate. Let's say I'm talking about 19%. Percents are always out of 100. That's what the word percent means. The word cent means 100. So percents are always out of 100. That means that they're nice and easy to compare with one another. That's why we like to use them in things like statistics, because then it's easy to compare two numbers. Like if I'm looking at two sports, two athletes, one of them has a 19% shoot, or maybe it's basketball players. One gets 19% of their shots in, the other one gets 32% of their shots in. It's easy to say, oh, the 32% player is a better shooter, right? Okay, so fractions, the way to turn it into a fraction from a percent is it just means out of 100. So you just simply make the number out of 100. Then it's a fraction, and you can reduce it from there if you want. For decimals, it means out of 100. So really we're talking about hundredths. So it's 19 hundredths or 0.19. Remember, this second number after the decimal place is called hundredths. So it's just 0.19. Another way to do it on your calculator is this means divide. So you could just simply divide the fraction, 19 divided by 100, you get 0.19 or 19 hundredths. So that's how you convert. Let's do this in a table. So percent to a decimal, we just write it as a decimal. So 0.19 is 19 hundredths. And as a fraction, 19 out of 100. Okay, 145%. You can have percentages that are greater than 100, especially if you're talking about percentage growth, for example. So as a decimal, what we want to do here is divide this by 100. So it's greater than 100%. So we're going to have a decimal number that's greater than 1. So one way to do this is just to move the decimal place over 2 spots or divide the number by 100. So it's going to be 1.45. Okay, as a fraction, we can just simply write it 145 out of 100. Remember, percents mean out of 100. And we can reduce that. Divide by 5. And we get 29 out of 20. And that can't be reduced any further. Okay, let's go from a decimal number, 0.61. So the way to convert this to a percent is just times this by 100. So it'd be 61%. That's because the way to read this is 61 hundredths. The way to change it into a fraction is just make that percentage out of 100, 61 out of 100. Okay, 0.625. So again, divide that by 100 to make it a percent. So we're essentially moving the decimal place 2 places, 62.5%. The way to make this one into a fraction is to look at that decimal number, and we have 3 numbers after the decimal place. That means we're dividing this number into thousandths with 3 zeros. So we want to make our fraction out of 1,000 because there's 3 numbers after the decimal, and it's just 625 out of 1,000. That's because this is 625 thousandths. That's how to read that number. And we can reduce that to make it easier to understand. We want to divide by 25. Or actually, we can even divide by 125 to get 5 over 8. Okay, 7 over 12. Let's type that into our calculator, because that number, that's the easiest way to go from a fraction to a decimal. 7 divided by 12, 0.583 repeating. So see how that 3 repeats on my calculator screen? That means this is a repeating decimal. Lots of decimals are repeating numbers. So you can write the number like that with a little bar over top of the 3. That means that the 3 keeps going forever. So the way to convert this to a percent is just to move that decimal place over twice, 58.3 repeating, like that. Okay, next, again, I'm going to use my calculator. We have 3 out of 500, 0.006. This is a really small percentage, so we're going to move that over twice, 0.6%. Okay, There we go.